Okay, I think we're recording. So, hi, I'm Elizabeth, and thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited because we're here with my client, Sara, and today we're going to be talking about the results that she created working together and, what created the results that she got in dating, because she has some really awesome results. So, hi, Sara. Thanks for being here with me today and being willing to share your story and your experience. So,
Thank you. I'm excited.
yeah. So I asked you to come on because I think that the women in my audience are really going to relate to your story and to kind of what you were going through. And one of the amazing things about it is like when you were reached out to me, you were really frustrated with dating and like the men that you were meeting. And then you went on to meet this like amazing man who was completely commitment ready. And you were in a committed relationship with him within, I think it was something like 2.5 months, which
Yep.
is super fast. Would you say that's accurate?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and like what was going on in the dating front for you when you came into coaching? What were you struggling with? What were like the challenges you were having when you reached out to me?
Yeah. So for a while, I had always sort of done the online dating thing and had played around with different apps and things like that, and was just continuously meeting the same kind of guy, just not committed, sort of like quote unquote player, and just sort of wanting to have fun. And that just was never how I was, but I was just attracting that. And I think through some of the work with you too, realizing that that felt safer almost than getting somebody who was committed, even though that's what I wanted, somebody who was committed. And so I was just, when I had come to you, I was feeling really frustrated and just defeated and sort of like putting my hands up, like, you know what, I'll just be alone for the rest of my life. Like, you know what, fine, like whatever, I'll be one of those types of people. Even though deep down, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be with somebody. But it was just sort of impacting my own self-esteem and feeling like I wasn't good enough. And then I think just impacted how I was when I did get a date with somebody, just like kind of just playing around along with them and not really being forthcoming, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but just not being honest with myself and saying what I wanted, and sort of was just wasting my time. So when I came to you, I was very much in a defeated place. Like, what am I going to do? Like, what's wrong with me? And that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like that is so common for so many of the women who reach out to me, that they're in that position and they're like, I've like tried all this stuff. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, where are these guys? This is like all I'm attracting. And like, does something else exist? Maybe I will be single forever. Like all of those kinds of thoughts. And yeah, like a little bit of the defenses too. And like, what does this mean about me? And
Right. And then when I was in that place too, it's like, of course, everyone around you, it seems like they all have boyfriends or they're married or engaged, or so it just makes you feel even worse. Even though, like, when I think back, like that actually wasn't the case, but I was so hyper focused on that, and that's sort of like I had blinders on to like everything else. So I think that impacted it too. Like, you feel like you just got to be on all these dates, you know, to kind of fit in.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. That's huge. And I feel like I was there too when I was like trying to find someone and it was not working out. I felt the exact same way. So I'm curious, like, what had you reach out to me originally and like sign up for a consult call? Do you remember?
Like, what propelled me to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
So I had found you on Facebook. I'm not really sure. Oh, yeah, I think I might have found you through Boston Businesswomen. Maybe. I don't know. I found you online and had like gone to your website, and everything you had on the website was like, yep, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. Then I joined your Facebook group, and it was more of like, yep, I checked that box. And so your posts and videos had definitely resonated with me. And so I felt like that was a good indicator. And I'm definitely the type that does some research beforehand too. So because I had toiled with like, maybe I go with a matchmaker, or maybe I go with a relationship coach. Like, what do I do? But I'm a therapist as like my full-time job. So I liked that coaching aspect because I felt like that's what I needed. And so then I was just like, you know what the hell? Like, I'll just try it out. We'll see. It's a free call. Like, what could go wrong? Like, it's either going to be a match or it's not. And then we had the call, and it was, again, everything you were saying was just like resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I think, like the biggest thing for me, because I'm such a numbers person too. It's just my personality. That was the only thing that had like somewhat held me back, but not really, because then I said yes pretty quick. And it's funny, I was just talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, it was the best investment I ever made. And I remember you saying that on that call, like, my
Yeah.
clients tell me it's the best investment. I remember thinking like, that's just craziness. And then here I am saying it's the best investment I ever made in myself. So yeah, I think it was also just my personality. I kind of like, you know what, try it out. Worst case, it doesn't work out. But it fit. I think also I was ready to take this step in my life, which I think is important. Like a year, 2 years ago, probably not, but I was in a place where I was ready to do the work, and like, this is what I wanted.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's so huge. It's hard sometimes when you're like on the other side of a coaching experience because you don't know what's going to happen. And honestly, you can't imagine the transformation that will happen either. Like your head just can't because you're not there. So like, yeah, I tell clients, I'm like, all my clients tell me this was like the best decision I made. And they're like, yeah, okay. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can believe you, but I love just like hearing it from you that like, now you're on the other side, you're like, yep, that was really, really smart, even though it was scary. But I think something about you is like, yeah, you definitely did your due diligence, and that's fine. Like you have to make a decision that feels good, but you were willing to like make that leap. And sometimes that can just be so scary to like make that commitment and like thinking about it versus doing it.
Right. And I think I had spoken to one of your previous clients too. And everything she said was just resonating. And I think she even had said like it was the best investment I made in myself. And it was just like, you know what, like that was, sometimes you have to like hear it from like the clients too and get that. And it was just, yeah, it was just felt right. It did
Yeah.
feel right.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you did.
Me too.
Yeah. So I know the women listening are kind of curious now. They're like, okay, so like what happened? Like
Okay.
what was the result of this investment?
Right.
So like can you tell us a little bit about like your journey on those, the time that we've worked together, what happened, what were some of like the biggest things that like shifted for you?
Yeah. So, I think it's funny because I am a therapist, so I find myself not always practicing what I preach. And so it was nice to be sort of held accountable for certain things, especially in the beginning. I took those homework assignments as like very serious and like made sure I did them. Even though it was very uncomfortable sometimes just for me, because it was out of my comfort zone. Even just journaling wasn't something I was really into, but it was just sort of like getting into that routine and making it a part of my routine really helped. And I think for me, one of the biggest things was that we worked a lot with was just those affirmations and those mantras, especially in the beginning. Like, nope, I will find my person. I am good enough. Like things will happen. And you made them really personable to me, which really helped. And so I remember repeating those to myself a lot and having them in my phone and on sticky notes and things like that. So I could just sort of remind myself of that. Sometimes it was some of those smaller things that really helped. And then also sort of delving into just some of like the own inner work, like not realizing some of the things from my upbringing or my lived experiences that have sort of impacted how I was dating and how I was sort of presenting myself and even perceiving myself. Because I think I always felt like something was wrong with me. It was always me.
Mhm.
And then and then of course, just the help with the actual tangible dating and the profile and all those things that I just had no idea I was sort of like missing, whether it was how a photo was or just even the way I was wording a description or responding. All of that was so important. And in the moment, it didn't seem like it, like, okay, who cares if I'm using this word as opposed to this word? But it does make a difference, especially with online dating, because that initial swipe or click is what they're seeing on your profile before they even talk to you. So that that wording in the picture, everything is so important. So that was super helpful. And then just when I did find my person, just help with that, like just sort of navigating the dating stuff, because I had sort of had some experiences that weren't so great. And I wanted to make sure I went into this feeling really confident and grounded in what I was saying and my own values and things that I wanted to bring to the table. And so it was definitely a journey, but it was sort of a mix of things like journaling and the mantras and then the actual dating and profile things.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, and this is the thing about like how I approach like my work is like, there's going to be like the action steps. There's going to be something I tell you to go do outside of the coaching to like really lock it in. Cause like we're going to discover reasons for why you have the patterns you have. And then you got to go change your brain wiring around it. Right.
Right.
But then also like the practical, like you said, like dating profiles, I can't tell you how almost all my clients, I look at their profiles and most women don't realize how important it is or that they're doing anything wrong. Right. And what you had on your profile and like what it was afterwards, like we knew why you were attracting the men you were online.
Right.
Right. Like
Yes.
without that, I don't know if Mike would have come into the picture.
Right. Exactly.
Which is
And
crazy.
and like, I am such a, like I want to get from point A to point B in like the snap of a finger. And so you were able to sort of slow me down and be like, no, like we can still work on the profile, that stuff, but like we also need to, do some of that inner work too. So it was a good balance, I would say too, of just like, in order to really get to point B, there are all these things in between too, which are equally as important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember you were like, I want to be there already. And I'm like, it's been 1 month. Like you're going to be fine.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, could you
Mhm.
tell us like the story of like how you met Mike and like what led you to finding him for all the women who are like, we all love to hear these stories.
Yeah. So I was used Hinge, and I think it was actually me who liked his photo.
Mhm.
And then he had liked mine, and he had sort of initiated the conversation. And it was a little, for me, I felt like it was a little slow, like for him to like ask me on a date. And I remember talking to him about this a few weeks ago. We were just talking, and he was like, he's like, you said something like, oh, well, we should try a restaurant. He's like, I guess that's sort of my like into asking her out. And so he asked me out and we met for coffee. And it's a funny story actually, because he was like 45 minutes late because we met in Boston Common and there was no parking. Like it was prime spring season and beautiful weather. And I remember waiting and thinking like, is he gonna show up? Like what's happening here? And there he goes. Right, exactly. But no, he came, and I think we sat in Boston Common for like 3 hours almost. Like before we knew it, we were like, oh my God, like we both had things to do in the afternoon. And so it was just lovely, like real, like no other word comes to mind other than lovely. Like we hit it off. We had things in common, but then we didn't. And then it just quickly sort of progressed, like probably the fastest, not that I've had many relationships before him, but we just clicked. And then we continued going on dates. And I remember for like the third date, I think he had asked me to go to his house. He was going to cook dinner. And I remember being really nervous, like, what's this going to turn into? It's only the third date. Like he wants me to come over. Like, it could only mean one thing, but it didn't. Like, I remember I got there, he hugged me, and then he kissed me, and he was like, I don't want you to like think like just have dinner. I don't want to rush things. And I felt so good. Like it was just like a weight had lifted over me. Like it reaffirmed that we were both on the same page about things. And then it just continued going. I remember he went away to a wedding back home where he lived, like where he was from. And when he got back, he was like, all I could think about was you. And it just felt so good. And then he had asked me to make it official. And so we've been dating for like a month and a half now, maybe, but have known each other since about April. And it's just, we went to Newport. I'm going to go to Wisconsin to see his family for Christmas. And it's just been amazing. I never thought I'd find someone like him. And I tell him even to this day, like, I just feel so lucky. And it's funny because we'll post pictures, but when I talk to my friends and family, they're like, Sara, you just look different. Like, you just look happy. And it wasn't that I wasn't happy before, but I think even I had said this to you too. Like, I have a job, I have an apartment, and like, I felt so settled, and I felt like the piece that was missing was this. And it just feels right. It really just, there's no way to even describe the feeling. It just feels right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember like when you met him, it just flowed. It was so easy for you from the beginning. There was just the part about him asking you out, which I think like, I was like, okay, you're going to say this, like,
Right. Yes.
Then he asked you out.
Yep.
And I just know, like, we'd get on the call and it'd be like, okay, what's going on? He'd be like, literally, everything's amazing. There is no problem. And this is what happens to all my clients is like, they meet the right person. We do the work to get them there. And there are like no problems. It's so easy.
It just feels right. I always say that it just feels right.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I also love the story of like how he asked you to be his girlfriend. Cause you had been like, okay, has it been too long that we've been dating? He hasn't asked me yet. Like, no, it's like a really good amount of time. And then he asked you, and I just love that story.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was when he came back from the wedding, right?
Yeah. He had come back from the wedding and we were sitting on his couch and he said something. And I said, yeah, don't you like something? And he's like, what? He's like, are you talking about your other boyfriend? And I was like, I didn't say anything at first because I was slow to catch on to it. And then I was like, wait, what did he just say? And I was kind of gave him a look and he's like, why are you looking at me like that? And I was like, well, you just said your other boyfriend. Like, what does that mean? And then he was like, oh, never mind. And I was like, no, like what do you mean? And he was like, oh, I had this whole plan. We were going hiking that next week and he was going to ask me at the top of the mountain. But it just sort of, he's like, I just came out because he said to his friend at the wedding, he's like, if I don't ask this girl to be my girlfriend, she's going to leave. Because things were just going so well. There was like, we were acting like we were a couple. So it just made sense, but it was fun, and it was fun for it not to be super planned and it just to sort of happen naturally too.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about this story too, is he led everything. Like you actually did not have to lead a thing, right? Mm-hmm. All that him was moving it forward. And there was like a little of the anxiety on your part, but mm-hmm. not for any reason, because there was nothing wrong, right? But he did everything, which is what we like when we talk about like a masculine man, a man who's ready for commitment. That's what happens.
That's what it is. Yep.
You feel so safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Just there's not actually anything to worry about, which is hard for me because I'm a worrier. So it's like I'm trying to find something to worry about, but there's really nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that the other question I wanted to ask about this was just like, how is being with him different than you've experienced before with men? Because I know this is not like what you're used to in terms of like other experiences with men, and just for women to hear, like what's possible, like what is different about this?
I think, well, I always say, I think I was always attracting like a boy, and Mike, I find he's an actual man, and I'm trying to think like, what are the qualities of him that are so different? But it's just that he's mature and we're on the same page about things. Like we want the same things in life, and he's confident and he has a really great work ethic. He's not a kid. He's a little bit older than me. But he's established. He knows what he wants. He's more grounded. And I think before I was meeting guys that weren't as grounded or established. They were still in like a party phase and felt like, they needed to sort of check those types of things off their bucket list. But it was almost like he had kind of been there, done that, and was in a different place in his life. And that worked for me. Because I'm, not in that place either. And so I guess I always go back to, he's like an actual man. He's not a boy. He's not a kid. He's a man. And there is a difference.
Yeah.
there is a difference. Not
Yeah.
to say that I couldn't meet somebody who was my age that was a man, but I wasn't finding that. And, I found him, and I feel more secure. He accepts me for who I am. Um, that's it. I don't have to be someone I'm not, which I think I was falling into the trap with before. I felt like I needed to be so perfect and not show emotion and just yes everything. And it's like I can say to him, like, you know what, no, I don't want to come over, can you come over to my place tonight, or something, like, and not feel like, oh my god, like maybe he'll break up with me because I'm setting a boundary or something. There's none of that, which is just nice and refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a difference. And I'm curious, like what were the key things that you would say made a difference for you in the relationship you have now, like that came from coaching?
Well, I think setting, I don't know if boundaries is the right word, but I remember telling you a story about someone that I had previously been with, and he like wanted me to come over like late at night. And after I had like worked it was just like all over the place. And so I was able to set boundaries, but not feel guilty for that. Like able to actually use my voice and not feel bad about saying what I want. Like, you know what? No, I actually don't want to go to that restaurant. I want to go here, or I don't want to go out tonight. So really just using my voice and feeling like confident in doing that. I think another huge piece was all of that inner childhood work too, and not realizing how much of an impact that had on just my ability to date people. Like, just even my own confidence. And I think, and just I was using a lot of my previous relationships, whether it be with men or family members or friends, as like a basis of how it was going to be in the future. And we were able to sort of heal some of those parts. And so I was able to, meet Mike and, get to like that part where we were official, where I was like working on those parts and able to sort of find myself a little bit. But I think that inner work was really big piece of it for sure.
Yeah. It's so our past has such a big impact on like how we show up with a new person, and
Right,
so much of that is like the stuff we don't even know is
right.
doing that, right? Like I don't think you knew what we would uncover when we started doing it, right?
And even just hearing some of your stories with like Eric or your previous experiences, it's just nice because like, especially as women, like we like to know that someone else has been there or has a similar experience. And so it was just nice. Or when you mention, oh, this is similar to another client I had, it's just nice to know like you're not alone. And so I always thought that was helpful too. Or for when you would, call me out on like some of my own thoughts, like that's actually like not a real, like that's not even a valid thought. Like, and sometimes like for me, I need that because I can be quite stubborn sometimes. And so sometimes I need that for somebody to be like, nope, Sarah, like, we can
Yeah.
get a new thought in there.
Yeah. Sometimes we have blinders, right? Like I don't even
Yeah.
realize this isn't a real thing. It feels real to me, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I get this question from women who have like done therapy sometimes for years, and they're like, okay, so like how is what you do different? And I know you are a therapist, you have done therapy. Like what would you say is different about the work that we did together versus other things?
Yeah, I think it's funny because, yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of therapists. I had gone to a sex therapist, like really delved in and like really, like for many years. And so I think the biggest difference is it's really the work that you do is so different. It's you giving me homework assignments. It's actually not just talking about the past, but finding ways to heal it. And I think with therapy, even as a therapist myself, there's a lot of talking and processing, and then it's just sort of there. And it's like, okay, but now what do you do with that? And with you, it was like, yep. So we open it up and then we kind of like tied it up back together with a new, more adaptive and healthy way to manage it. Or we sort of like gave the part a new job, so to speak, things like that. So I think that was the big difference. You weren't just opening it up, but you were opening it up, processing it, and then sort of putting it all back together. Whereas therapy, I think you just sort of open it up and, you don't always put it back together.
Yeah, and I always say like the difference between therapy and coaching is therapy, you have awareness of all the stuff, and in coaching, we do something so you can create something different, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Would you say that that was kind of your experience?
definitely. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Um, and then, for the women who have like heard your story today and they're inspired by it and they're interested in coaching, like why would you recommend that somebody book a discovery call with me, get into my one-on-one coaching? Like, what would you say?
Yeah. I think, well, for the booking a discovery call, I think it can't hurt. Like if you're even just thinking about it, like the thought just comes in your head, like, I wonder if, I think you just jump on that and you do it. Because you really don't know. I'm also very much a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. And so when I have a thought or something, or when I came across you online, I was like, nope, this is happening like for a reason, and like happening at this moment, like because the universe is trying to tell me something. But whether or not you believe that, I think you just act on it. It's free. It's a call. You get information. Um, and then I think to take the plunge into the one-on-one, I think as long as there is even just a small piece of you that's willing to do some of the work, I think, again, you act on that because you're going to take something out of it, whether you're looking for a relationship or more, you just want to heal different parts of yourself. I didn't go into this intending to sort of uncover these pieces of myself, and it happened and it was good. And so I think it's like, you don't know, you're going to get something out of it for sure. Um, and yeah, I would, I don't, yeah, I am a firm believer in just acting on it and just doing it. If you have the time and there's just even a small piece of you that wants to do it, I say just do it. It is truly the best investment I have ever made on myself. And yeah, and I remember when you said, I was just like, what? But I was just talking to a friend about it the other day, and I think when you hear other people say, like, you just look happier, like it just reaffirms, like, this was the right decision for me. It happened for a reason. It happened at the right time. And it was just the best thing I ever did. I mean, you get something out of it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's so powerful to just say that, right? Like, there's
Mhm.
no way you're going to walk into a coaching relationship and not get what you need from it, right?
Right. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, because you were on the edge, right? I think you took maybe
Yep.
about a week to think about it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
talked to one of my other clients and
Yeah.
talked to
Yep.
some other people just to
Yep.
process. And like, what was the thought process for somebody who's kind of on that place? They're a little
Yeah.
nervous about the financial investment. It feels big. Like,
Yep.
what was your thought process that like ultimately had you sign up?
Yeah. So I'm quite a type A person, and I'm very like try and be financially savvy. And I remember I reached out to my like financial advisor and I was like, what do you think? And she looked at me and was like, just do it. She was, why are you even asking me? Like I think she even said too, like, this is an investment in yourself. You can't even look at the amount of money it is, because no investment is going to be better than an investment in yourself. And that is more than money will ever buy you. And I think that really was kind of like made me think like, oh, like, okay, like, so don't even look at the money, just look at like what this could actually do for me in 3 6 months and a year. And so yeah, I talked to you, and then I talked to a previous client, and I talked to my financial advisor. And then I yeah, I wanted it so badly.
Yeah.
I was so ready for it. I was so exhausted and just defeated. I was like, let me try this. Like, let's just see. And even though, yeah, I still was nervous when I hit like confirm on PayPal or whatever, I remember after the first call just being like, yep, this is exactly what it should be. Like this, it just, again, it felt right. And then I had only signed up for the 3 months.
Yeah.
And then when I had done the next 3 months, I just, it was like no big
I
deal.
know.
Cause
I remember that because I was like, she took a week the first one. I like sent the link to you. You're like, okay, yep, done. I was like, okay.
right. Yeah. Cause I was like, no, like it was,
Yeah.
not only was it just working, but I I was able to trust myself too. And like, no, this is a decision I can make. I'm an adult. And if this is what I want, then I'm going to do it. Which I think I just didn't have the confidence when we had first spoken to just be like, nope, this is what I want. I was sort of always looking for like that validation from other people. And by that next 3 months, I was like, nope, like I can make this decision. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even that's a transformation in itself, like the self-trust, like that level of self-trust is also like huge,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just love you. Well, thank you so much for being on this call today and sharing your story and being vulnerable and giving other women advice and hope that this is possible for them too. And because it is, right? We know that. And, you know, I just adore you and I'm so excited for you and like for what's coming next for you in your life. Like you have such a big heart. You are so brave and so courageous. Like you were so young when you made this decision. And I was like, if I had made that decision when I was your age, like where would I have been now? So, you know, thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm just going to end the